Hi, I'm Brett Cenkus. I'm a business attorney and an M&A broker or advisor. Today, we're talking about all legal stuff. We're talking about the billable hour. We're talking about why lawyers can't get away from the billable hour. Do you want to understand because you are a lawyer or you're a client who has to pay billable hours? Let's just get into it and tackle it. We're going to try and do this very quickly, 3 minutes or less. We'll see if I can do that. I often miss the mark if you watch any of my other videos, but hopefully you find the information interesting and valuable. If you've got a general comment or question, you can put it below. If you want to have specific questions about your situation, you can book a call with me at clarity.fm, and there's a link in the show description below. So the billable hour, it is highly criticized, but we just kind of cannot seem to get away from it. Will we ever get away from it? I will tell you my experience, okay? When I started this law practice, like my own private practice 10 years ago, I pitched very hard. You might still find things out in the world, fixed fees. And that came from being general counsel of a public company and getting all these bills, which are just billable hours. And it was just so hard to figure out where the value was and if it made sense. And at the time, I thought, this is very client friendly. This is good. It didn't work. It didn't work. We will fix fee some things still, but very cautiously. And it ultimately just didn't work. I couldn't make it work as a business. And ultimately, I don't think it's what you want as a client. So let's start with why it didn't work as a business. Well, number one, some people just assumed it meant less money. And it shouldn't mean less money. It should mean more money. It should actually mean, look, your lawyer's taking on the risk of this deal being more than was expected to be, and you don't have to pay anymore. The meter stopped running, and you get to just keep pointing the taxi driver to drive around the city. You got to pay up for that. But it was very hard for clients to understand that, very hard to price that on the front end when someone else is quoting out a not fixed fee and it sounds more attractive. So it was hard to balance that risk. And then it was very hard for me personally. This is a hard business for me to do because I have a lot of myself wrapped up in the work product. And that's kind of a self-serving comment, but it's also an admission of a tough thing for me. I don't know when to put that pen down. You could always make that agreement better. It's easier for me to put the pen down when the meter's running. It's way easier for me. And I might be the only lawyer who has this problem. I don't know. But it felt to me like when I'm making decisions, I'm trying real hard to put myself in the client's shoes. It's like I'm not billing they bought all of my services. Should we tackle that concept again, address that differently? It felt really hard for me to stop fixing things and spending time. We wrote off buckets and buckets and buckets of time. It was crazy. And I realized when the meter's running, it's easier for me to, on an hour by hour basis, say like, does that make sense? I can make my head thinks in terms of numbers and quantifying things. Does it make sense to worry about that? So it just didn't work as a business for me. Now, if you got me 10 years ago and got a fixed fee, it would have been a pretty good deal for you. So I can guarantee it. I have the data. It's overwhelming, but it just wasn't sustainable. And so I think the lawyers who can make it work sustainably are padding the fixed fee pretty heavily. So which means you're probably getting the worst side of this thing. And they're also having to just stop and put the pen down and not do more than they need to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I mean, that's what I should have done. That was what the client bought. It just was so hard for me not to want to polish that thing up. There was some ego. There's some things I got to work through in that, honestly, because it just was so hard. And so I think lawyers are better about putting it down and saying whatever and doing less than, the fixed fee. And so someone is usually getting the wrong side of that. In my fixed fee world, it was me. It was a Cenkus Law. In most, if they're doing it sustainably, they've got to be getting the better side. So it means you're paying more. Now, as a client, it might make sense to do that and have it fixed in stone. But ultimately, this all comes back down to it's exceedingly hard to predict how much time projects will take. If it's a very simple contract, a confidentiality agreement or something, it's pretty darn easy. But we also, even there, we don't know what the negotiation posture will be on the other side and how long times will take. So fundamentally, everything comes back to we only have a certain number of hours to sell. And if we're packaging them up and selling them at fixed rates, we got to be getting the better side of that to make it work as a business, which means clients are paying more. And ultimately, I think that you want the work it takes. You want certainty, but to get certainty, you have to buy risk that you can mitigate by having a lawyer who you trust, who does what they think needs to be done, who takes your direction and communicates with you. And I think I do that well. I think most of my clients would tell you I do that well. I'm sure there's some out there who maybe disagree. No one is perfect, okay? But ultimately, there are the lawyers out there who will do that. And if you get that, then you can trust them to do what they think needs to be done to make not minute by minute decision, but hour by hour decisions about what they do and they're going to bill you for. And that's just how the service works best. In my world, it's kind of been the only way to really make it work for me and for clients. So anyway, thanks for stopping by, watching this video. If you got general questions below, specific questions, there's a link to Clarity to talk to me. Thank you.